Ever since the cryptocurrency first launched and achieved success, institutional investors and hedge fund managers have secretly sought investment vehicles for Bitcoin. Well, now these vehicles are a reality. One such fund is operated by a European company called Exante Limited. Let me take you to their website right now. We're at their homepage, and they have quite a bit going on here. As you can see, lots of different products. It's primarily focused on Europe, but let's look at their Bitcoin product. Oh, let's just quickly. You've got fixed income, metals, futures, options, stocks, funds, and here's what we want to look at, their Bitcoin fund. And here it takes you to the page right here. You know what? Forbes magazine calls Exante the king of Bitcoin funds. Their Bitcoin fund currently manages a portfolio of 90,000 Bitcoins and has achieved a phenomenal 1,000% return in its short 3-month history. Keep in mind, Bitcoin investing, especially with managed funds, is a ground floor opportunity in the truest sense of the word. It's literally just getting started. That's what makes it so exciting. But it's also the reason why it's risky. When you get in on a market like this, you should only, and I want to stress this, you should really only put in money that you can afford to lose. Now, Exante requires a lot of upfront money, and most people are not going to be able to afford to lose this kind of money, unless you're George Soros or somebody like that. They have a hefty 100,000 euro account for their general hedge funds, plus a 10,000 euro Bitcoin minimum for their exclusive Bitcoin fund. So while it's good to know a company like Exante is available out there, unless you have a couple $100,000 to spare, I don't recommend you invest with these guys right now. However, there is another company with no minimum required that makes perfect sense as a starting place for the average investor. And that's the one I want to focus on right now in this presentation. I'm going to take you to the website of a company called Havelock Investors. And here we are right there. Now, there are lots of opportunities on here. These guys, some of their funds pay weekly dividends. That's right, weekly dividends. Now, let's just give you a quick overview here. This is very easy. We can look around quickly on the homepage, and we'll come back to funds in just 1 second. If you roll down here, you'll see there's quite a bit of information on here, videos, talks about pass-through funds. They've got lots of news. It's a pretty robust site. But what we're really interested in are the funds. Now, these are various Bitcoin funds, all right? And as you can see here, there are actually 7 listed, and the number of funds can change over time. Right now, today, there are only 6 funds that you can invest in, but that's still quite a choice. And you can see that there's quite a bit of things going on here in terms of the dividends you can earn. This fund right here, HIM, has a price of 0.28 Bitcoins, and it pays an annual dividend of 5.57%. That's okay. It's not the greatest. We have this fund here, SDSTM, and that has an annual yield of 10.3%. That's starting to sound pretty good, considering we're still in such a low interest environment. Now let's look at some bigger returns. AM100 is paying an annual dividend as of right now today. The annual yield is 29.77%. That is a great yield. You can look at, just very quickly, there's also AM1, which also pays 28.68. So these guys are pretty close. This is the one that really intrigues me here, AM100, and I'm going to click on the page and tell you a little bit about it. You'll see there, here we have an overview, and it talks about how they set this thing up to make it easier for people to reinvest dividends. Now then, this is a pass-through fund. AM100 is known as a pass-through fund. And what that means is the assets are literally passed through directly to the shareholders and reinvested back into the fund. So each AM100 share has the right to 95% of its respective dividends. 5% is retained, and that's, it's reasonable to me. A 5% fee is retained to handle management here. If you were to compare that to an ETF where it might be 0.5, but ETF is much different situation. This is a lot more complicated work that these guys have got to do, especially in the early stages of this market. Now here's the kicker. When you reinvest these dividends, you're reinvesting them in Bitcoins. So you reinvest with Bitcoins. It's kind of like a drip account. So it's automatically, and you get the magic of compound interest. And when you do that over the life of several years, this could offer you a huge payout in the form of dividends.